Saints, I've spoken about this case twice before on this channel. Well, actually thrice. First time was in a general video. Second time, I made a whole live stream talking about this case just to show you that it didn't add up. Third time, it was to show you that the El Pianista thrill, that story that they want beyond the continental divide, that something doesn't add up with it. Now, for some reason, I felt the need to look deeper into this case. So I encountered this Dutch researcher. Well, he has a Spanish name, but he always says he's from the south of the Netherlands, so for now I'm going to call him Dutch. Juan Pereira. His second last name is Spanish. I don't know how to not sure how to pronounce it, but okay. Juan Pereira. He is an expert in photography and photo manipulation, and he came out and said that the pictures that the media has shown about this El Pianista route that the two women allegedly took were faked. And he has his own website and his own YouTube channel, and he explains all of it. Now, some of his videos may be a bit long. You see him walking in the forest, giving his talk, but he also has a Google Drive that you can access, and there he has given his receipts, and his receipts are quite convincing. He shows, as an expert in Photoshop, how all those pictures that came out in public of the El Pianista trail, how all of them were fake. And based on the proof and evidence that Juan has shown, there are only two scenarios possible. Either the two women arrived over there. They only took the hike till the continental divide, and they went back and they were kidnapped over there, or they were never there to begin with. And his thing, there were, I believe, two Americans that came with a camera crew, and they walked the same path and they recorded it. And one thing that's remarkable is that El Pianista trail, there are many small houses around, nearby. It is as if you're walking in someone's backyard when you take that hike. So it's impossible that you could get lost on that trail. Now, I'm not here to talk about the case over and over again. What I'm pointing out to you is the following. When this thing came out, mainstream media was in on it. So your first exposure about this case was mainstream media. Well, that's obvious, or else you wouldn't have known about it. But mainstream media gave an explanation. And because it's mainstream media, together with the authorities of Panama and the Dutch government that confirmed this explanation, people said, that's true, that's factual. And this is what you understand about human psychology. Human beings have an appeal for authority. We want to be led. We want to be guided. So, when an authority figure that has been established to say something, we tend to believe it. Even when we have our doubts about what's being said, even if what's being said doesn't add up, because it's an authority figure that said it, we get along with it. Especially if authority figures insist on it. And that is what happens in this case. The whole scenario that they just fell off this bridge, which in fact was just a rope across a river, that story was debunked by those two American investigators who demonstrated that even if the two women would have passed beyond the Continental Divide, they wouldn't have been able to make it all the way to the Monkey Bridge or all the way nearby to make the first emergency call. It was impossible. So the whole story of the Panamanian government did not add up. But most people knew that. But why is it that there are so many people who still hold on to that story? Because it's an authority figure that said it, and there are more authority figures confirming it. And I want to teach you the following. Just because an authority figure confirms something doesn't mean it's true. Just because an authority, no matter how established authority is, tells you something, pay attention to the evidence and the proof. And above all, pay attention to your intuition. When you hear something, or when you see something, and on the inside, you feel that something is off, then something is off. Stop doubting your own intuition. Stop doubting it. Now, I heard the theory that the pictures may have been photoshopped, but to me, they all appeared legit. It was when I checked the receipts, I realized, indeed, they look so convincing, but those that photoshopped them made some key errors here and there. And once you see those key errors, you can't unsee them. And this is what I want you to understand. Something can appear convincing to you. But if something is a hoax or something is a lie, no matter how convincing they make it appear, there are always going to be some cracks in what they are presenting to you. Now, if you're not aware of those cracks, you are convinced and you are tricked into believing what they are presenting to you. But the moment someone points out those cracks to you, you can't go back. So, learn the following. Just because authority figures confirm something does not mean you should get along with it. Okay? Especially when the evidence and the proof shows otherwise. But most people, when they realize that an authority figure is stating something that doesn't match reality, they tend to make excuses. Why? Because to admit that an authority figure may be wrong or that an authority figure is flat out lying to you, that is something that scares a lot of people. Because that's something they simply do not want to deal with. They don't want to deal with this conflict, that evil is going on and that authority figures may be in on it. Now, am I accusing the Panamanian government immediately of being involved in the crime directly? No. However, the Panamanian government did cover it up by coming with this bullshit statement that anyone that goes online and just reads the story could say this doesn't end up, this can't be true. So, apart from this case, anytime you hear a story and there are too many questions in the story, you have to consider maybe the story is fabricated. Alright? If you have a story about something, but it brings forth too many questions, and you remain stuck in the story, this is because it's likely a fabrication. And some of those fabrications can be quite convincing, but you can't fool everyone. There will always be people that will see through it. Look, that is why anytime they cover something up, they bring it in a sensationalized way. They bring it in a very emotional way. By bringing it in a very emotional way, you're using people's emotions against them. Because when we are emotionally triggered, we can't think clearly anymore. When we are emotionally triggered, we can't think clearly anymore. And when you can't think clearly, you tend to receive what's given to you. And that's the emotional state the world leaders want us in. They want us emotionally triggered, so that whenever they gave us an explanation, we get along with the explanation. And once we get along with the explanation and question it, you're the conspiracy theorist, you're the nuts. They begin to attack you. Look, apart from these two women, there are many, many more cases out there where people were the victims of foul play. and the authorities as well as the locals covered it up. I'm telling you, man, people know very well, and people know exactly what happened to those two women. They just don't want to open their mouths because either they're afraid or they have some benefit in what happened. I'm being very rude and clear here. And that's why, again, I'm repeating this because it's very important. When you hear a story and it triggers more questions than answers, consider that the story may be fabricated. Listen, I am a novelist. I'm also a scholar. I know how to do research. I know how to cite sources and all of that. I've written 3 master theses. Okay? I'm also a novelist that I write historical fiction. And let me tell you one thing. When people read a story, I'm not talking about a scholarly paper or a scientific paper. When people are reading just a novel, just a fictional story for entertainment, if that story is too inconsistent, or if that story contradicts itself, too often people just lay down the book. Or if you're watching a movie and in the first 5 minutes the movie contradicts itself, you tend to think, I don't want to watch this anymore. People want to consume things that add up. Alright? So in fiction, you can't get away with coming with a bullshit story that can't add up. Because if you come with a nonsense story that can't add up, as a novelist, you're finished. Or as a movie producer, you're finished. Whatever you produce as a fiction must add up somewhere for the reader or the viewer. However, when it comes to mainstream media, because it's often emotionally charged, we often don't see the inconsistencies. That's why mainstream media gets away with so many weird stories that if you would remove all the emotional sensation up from it, you realize, what is this? That's why I'm telling you, you can fool a lot of people, but you can't fool everyone. So apply this to your life. If a story brings forth too many questions, consider the fact that it may be fabricated. Now, that it's fabricated does not mean that nothing bad happened. It can just mean that the fabrication is designed to distract you from what really happened. So, that's it for this video. Keep it on cream with Christ and be at peace.